Okay, it's 6:35, so I'm gonna get this show started. Andre, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it. So I'm just going to introduce Andre real quick. Also, thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited about tonight. So about Andre. Raised in the southern states of Tennessee and Texas, Andre Ramos-Woodard, they, them, theirs, is a contemporary artist who uses their work to emphasize the experiences of the underrepresented, celebrating the experience of marginalized people while accepting the repercussions of contemporary and historical discrimination. Working in a variety of media, including photography, text, and illustration, Ramos-Woodard creates collages that convey ideas of communal and personal identity centralized within internal conflicts. They are influenced by their direct experience with life as being queer and African American, both of which are obvious targets for discrimination. Focusing on Black liberation, queer justice, and the reality of mental health, Ramos-Woodard works to amplify repressed voices and brings power to the people. Ramos-Woodard received their BFA from Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas, and their MFA at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Without further ado, I give you Andre Ramos-Woodard.
Thank you so much, Isabel. So I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen and just jump right into this. Okay, wait. Okay, can you guys see everything? Can you see the beginning?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, as I just said, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who's literally just taking the time out of your day to be here and to experience my work. I absolutely wish that we could do this all in person, but I'm really glad that even though things are still going on and still crazy, that we could do this virtually and have some sort of camaraderie in this way. So I'm really appreciative to all of you, and appreciative to everyone, to Isabel, to everyone at, y'all say CCAC? I don't know if y'all say that, but I've been saying it in my head. The Kansas City Arts Coalition, for giving my work an opportunity, you know, like to amplify my work. I really genuinely and sincerely appreciate this. The space is absolutely beautiful and amazing. So yeah, let's start. But also, before we really start, I would like to give a trigger warning. In reality, I'll be talking about very serious and real themes, mental health and Blackness, including police brutality against Black people, white supremacy, depression, and death, including suicide and suicidal ideation. Not only are these things very important to my work, but they're very important in my life. And they're difficult topics, but they're more difficult for the people who share these sort of experiences. So please take care of yourself, and if you got to step away or anything, or just know that some of these topics are rough. And without further ado, now I can talk about me. So my name is Andre Ramos-Woodard. I use they, them pronouns. I'm non-binary. And I literally wrote in my notes, let's get a couple of things straight. I sure am not. I am proudly Black and loudly queer, and that's something that I aspire to be. I'm just trying to figure out ways to exude that energy more and more every single day. So this is me and my family. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee. I was created and raised by two amazingly wonderful human beings, Anna and Thomas Woodard. Hi, Mom. Hi, Anna. That sounds weird to say, Anna, but I said it anyway, Mom. Sorry. And I'm also a triplet. So I'm the youngest of the triplets. I'm the youngest of three little boys by 2 minutes. My brother's names are Anthony and Adrian. So we have Anthony, Adrian, and Andre. And since my parents apparently aren't scared of nothing, they decided to try again because my mom wanted a girl and they got their wish. And my sister Tiana was born 5 years after us. I think it's kind of crazy because whenever I was a kid, you know, I'm the fraternal triplet, which means that I look different than my brothers. And that's kind of extended to my personality. I've also kind of acted a little bit different and liked different things ever since I was little. Not that we aren't close, we're all still very close. But my brothers, Anthony and Adrian, have a lot of similarities that I don't have. I mean, I'm queer, they're not. They like basketball, I don't. I like drawing art. They had the same group of friends growing up, and I had different ones. So we have our similarities, but we are a little bit different. That being said, my sister Tiana is the twin that happened 1,000 days later. Not only do we look alike and share like the same complexion, but we act alike, and also even have like some of the same mental health relationships and issues. So me and my sister Tiana are low-key the same person, and Anthony and Adrian are low-key the same person. And so on the right is just a little gif of my mom and my dad with me and my brothers. Also, I still don't know how every time I talk about us to anyone, I'm like, yeah, we were a handful. We were a lot. So yeah, that's my family. That's me growing up. And so this piece, Rich and White People with Black Kids, is one of the first pieces that I made in the series, but definitely stemming from the reality that family and identity is really important to me. Identity is important to me, and family history plays a big role in that. I mean, I come from Black people and I come from the South. So just being a part of that identity, I mean, there's a lot that comes with that. But that being said, before I dive headfirst into the work, a mediocre-ass nigga, I'm gonna back up and give you some context for some of the earlier things that I made. And so as an artist, I've always made autobiographical work. The body of work that these images are from is called I Understand How You Feel. And I started this right after I had graduated from undergrad, which was from Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas. And when I made these images, my exclusive hope for the project was to find some sort of comfort with my thoughts, specifically with depression and anxiety and my aspirations and my goals and dreams, all those things. I was asking myself things like, can I interpret my own complex thoughts and experiences if I could see them rather than just keeping them in my head? Can I understand them more? And I was also thinking a lot about whether or not someone else outside of myself, whether it be someone that I'm really close to, someone in the picture, or a viewer in an audience that's experiencing the work, can they understand me? Can they understand not just what I'm trying to say, but can they understand what I'm feeling? And I came to a conclusion that nobody can. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that everyone lives their own lives. Everyone has their own unique lived experience. And though there may be tons of overlap between two individuals, between two brothers or sisters, people are still their own unique selves. And I respect that. And I think this body of work helped me learn that. But yeah, this was the first body of work that I was making. And I made this after undergrad, and I also continued it into grad school. But I got bored. So my undergrad degree is in photography, and my master's degree is in photography as well. But during my first semester of grad school as a photography major, photography started to piss my ass off. And I can't completely tell you why. Maybe it was because I just didn't feel like those images that I was making in the previous body of work was doing what I wanted it to do. It wasn't doing the service of kind of getting my thoughts out as much as I wanted it to. Or maybe it was just because I was overwhelmed by all of the photocentric history and photocentric theory that I was learning in grad school. Either way, I needed a break from the camera. And sometimes I still do. I needed a break, baby. And so I started to draw a lot. And I do not consider myself a drawer or a draftsman. I don't have like a huge background in it. I drew all the time when I was a kid with my cousin PK. We used to draw anime characters. We would like literally watch Dragon Ball Z. And then we would go from watching Dragon Ball Z to the computer, print out like a picture, and then draw said Dragon Ball Z character. And be like, Mom, look. Oh, well, Aunt Anna, look. And then we would like show my mom, and then she'd be like, cool. And then we would do the same thing over and over again every single day, every week. I guess until we got too old and school became difficult and hard. Um, but you know, I didn't do that much after I was a kid. I didn't draw much after I was a kid, especially after I discovered photography in high school. And so, oh, other than the courses that I had to take in undergrad because I needed to pass, you know what I'm saying? Like I had to take some drawing classes in undergrad, but I didn't do it that much. And so this was very, very new to me. So I was still exploring my identity and my relationships that I was like the relationships I have with other people. I was exploring these things, but through drawing this time. And I literally made the decision to draw whenever it was my first winter break of grad school. And after I was kind of like really thinking about what was photography not doing for me that I wanted it to do. And I was watching anime. I was watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is an amazing anime. If you haven't seen it, pick it up. And I was looking at just like I was thinking about how mesmerized I was by the character designs and the colors that were used in illustration and just everything. And I thought to myself, why don't I do this? Why don't I try to do what I did when I was a kid? It was familiar to me. Why don't I use drawing as a way to express myself? So I just started drawing, and I started drawing every single day of my second semester. Like I remember literally going on Pinterest and finding a Pinterest board of faces and just drawing the faces because I wasn't confident in what I was in my like draftsmanship, but I really wanted to achieve something. I wanted to say something, and I wanted to say it in the way I wanted to say it. So I just drew all the time. I'm not gonna Andy Wiley, shout out to him, but this the illustrate I did get a little bit better over the course of time, and it helped me get out of the constraints that I was placing upon myself within the realm of photography, at least straight photography for me. And so I think making this transition from dropping photography immediately and only doing drawing for most of an entire semester in grad school really changed my art. Like it changed everything about my art. It was one of the best decisions I ever could have made because it ties into my work a little bit now. And I also wanted to talk about this qualifying paper. So after my first year in grad school at the University of New Mexico, which I must say, shout out to UNM, I had to make this thing, and it's called a qualifying paper. And so a qualifying paper is a short 10-page paper, and it describes the ins and outs of your practice or my practice in this situation, my practice and my artistic endeavors. So what influences me, what my work is about, and where I thought my art was going were very specific things that I had to answer in the qualifying paper. The thing is, I didn't want to just write an 8 to 10-page paper. That was lame. I mean, okay, so shout out to everyone who's doing that. If you're writing papers, baby, go off. But it seemed disingenuous for me to talk about my work so intently and so intensely in just a paper. It just didn't feel right. So if I was supposed to be making a piece of some sort that was going to describe my art, I was going to make something artistic out of it. And so I talked to my chair, Patrick Manning, I love him. And, you know, he was like, yo, like you have to fulfill some of the requirements. You have to answer these questions, but you can make that however you want to make that. So instead of writing a paper, I made a zine. And this is the left side is the back of the zine. And the right side right here is the front of the zine. Definitely inspired by Tyler, the Creator's Igor album cover. Because Igor came out like right when I was starting this paper, and I was like, yes, Tyler, yes, give me this energy. And so if you look at Tyler, the Creator's Igor cover, you'll absolutely know what I'm talking about. But yeah, answering some of these questions that were required by academia for me to answer helped me learn a lot more about my practice and who I am and why the hell I do what I do. I ended up talking to myself a lot while I was making the zine, and a lot of the things I say in the qualifying paper end up being pretty diaristic or seem more like inner dialogue than any sort of academic paper. And that was helpful to me because I was figuring out a lot about myself. These questions that I had to answer were things that I didn't just know. I had to ponder them. I had to ponder over them. Like if I wanted to say, why I look like that? Because I don't know if anyone that's an artist, please tell me that they've looked at something that they made and be like, why the hell I look like that? I didn't mean to look like that. What am I doing? You know, that's part of it. That's part of me. That's a genuine part of my artistic process, is questioning and discovering and figuring things out. And so this zine allowed me to answer these questions, but also give insight to the process that is answering those questions. And so this is like what the first like page with a lot of text. And so definitely was thinking about the things that I had to do as far as being in grad school, being in an institution, being in academia. The right side is kind of that. The artist statement that I had specifically for some of the drawings I was making. And then on the left, we have me. Well, that ain't me, but it's more me. The vocabulary is absolutely the way I talk. So I'm gonna just read that because it feels so genuine. It feels more genuine than some of the artist statements. First off, because I had to answer why I make art. Whew, that's a loaded question. But first off, I make art because I want to. I mean, is there something wrong with it being that simple? Is it a real problem that that's the core making of my process? I'm comfortable making art. It makes me visualize ideas and emotions and feelings that I otherwise can't get out. And it helps me cope. It makes things okay. I would just be a different person without art, for real. And it's as simple as that. I mean, there's so much more to my art, but the reason I'm an artist is because I can't see myself doing anything else, and it helps me, and I like it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I also wanted to talk about some of my artistic influences. I try to experience as much art as possible, especially art by people who identify with underrepresented communities. So this means Black people, Black and Indigenous people of color, queer artists, women artists, disabled artists come to the forefront. I also tend to look at contemporary artists who are making things today more than work from any other time period. I think that there are a lot of people, a lot of amazing artists that are changing the game and making urgent work right now. And we need more of that. And so Tay Butler, a photographer and collage artist who I remember seeing his work for the first time and it blew me away. And also thinking about the album covers that Tay Butler makes, Tay Butler's relationship with Blackness and Black history in his work has always been an inspiration to me. The archive also and reappropriating found imagery is something that I do as well. And I look to Tay Butler for that. I look to him a lot for that. I think he's an amazing artist. And Qualisha Woods infatuated with those pieces. She makes these giant tapestries where she exemplifies her body and experience as a Black woman, inserting herself into spaces that have not historically been made for women or Black people. Who doesn't love seeing Black women as God? And if you don't, her work gonna tell you don't have to like it anyway, you know, because you're gonna have to deal with it. I love work that demands attention, especially from people that are marginalized and underrepresented. They need that attention and they respect and they demand that respect. And also music is always something that has been inspirational to me. Even before I knew how inspirational music was to my artistic practice, has always been a thing for me. From back in the day to being like, Mom, I only want to listen to emo music and metal, and that was weird. And now being like, I just want to listen to everything, specifically Black artists. But yeah, music has been as much as an influence to my practice as visual art has been. And I tend to respond to artists who think intently about their lyricism and bring their experience into the world with just their words. And it can create, y'all know it can create some wild pictures in people's heads. And I love the fact that through music can create different pictures in different people's heads because it's actually just vocabulary, right? And I'm not a musician, pause. I did play the clarinet for 9 years, but I guess I am, but I'm an artist now. And I sure ain't no poet. So, I'm inspired by these mediums that I feel like I can't really dig into in this way. But God, I love music. If I'm not listening to music whenever I'm making artwork, poke me, stab me, something's probably wrong. And I also must say it was so difficult to choose 5 albums that I thought were most influential to this body of work at this moment. And so these are just 5 that I don't know, by 5 Black artists making art, making music about their experience as marginalized people, as Black people. From Mike, who deals with mental health, No Name, who deals with Blackness and Black power, Kendrick Lamar, all of the above, and Life, who's a Black man who went to prison, right? Like, all of these are very important. All of these are not only part of their experience, but they're inherently part of the Black experience. And that is important to me. And if you don't listen to all these, screenshot it, baby. You should listen to all these. And so this is I don't know if it'll play. So this is I made this playlist for a show I had at Filter Photo in Chicago. And the playlist consists of songs by Black musicians and music groups that I feel connected to the work in a mediocre-ass nigga. Some give insight to the Black experience, like Blaxploitation by No Name, and others give insight to mental health, like 2 Hours by Toby Lou. And some are both. So the link to this is on my website, this playlist called Lexapro. And yeah, I really want to, in a perfect world, I could leave my music in whatever space I have work in. I know that's not always possible, but at the very least, I can do it online. And I kind of want to just wait until the first song plays because it's very important to me.
Arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. All y'all who think we need more evidence, you goofy. I said arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. And Elijah McClain too. Y'all hold that boy. Arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. All y'all who think we need more evidence, you goofy. I said arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. You catch the vibe?
That will always be my intro to any. Wait, did y'all hear that? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. That will always be my intro to any playlist I make for a mediocre-ass nigga, because that song will never stop being important. It still hasn't happened, and so I will still be waiting for that to happen. Oop, not again. So yeah, on that note, Black trauma and the Black experience is real. There's a lot of things to love about Black people and being Black, but I would be lying if I said that Black people ain't had to suffer and aren't still suffering, and for no reason other than white supremacy at that. Existence for Black people and Black and Indigenous people of color in general is an act of resistance. And if you don't believe me, watch the news or study the Black Panthers or read about Black history or read about Black people's stories or visit the Blackest parts of your city and just look around. We have been fighting for a long fucking time and we are not done. And that's what these 2 images are about. Weapon, George Zimmerman sold the gun he killed Trayvon Martin with for $250,000 in 2020 New Year's resolution. In this image, so I pull a lot of images from my family archive. So I will go through, I remember going through my mom's house, or going right before COVID happened, going to my mom's house, right? And like, shout out, she pulled out all of these like books, all of these old pictures, boxes of images. And I was like, we're taking it all in. I'm still not done, mother. I will be back. You're down the street now. I have a lot more to get. But I was just playing around with the imagery. In this specific image, I was playing around with This image is of me and my father who's smiling, and me who is doing this weird running gesture, I guess, this weird like kind of escaping gesture. And when I turned this image black and white and bumped up that exposure, I immediately thought of the album cover Things Fall Apart by The Roots, where the riot police are chasing two young Black teens during a civil rights protest in the 1960s. And that's where the title of this piece comes from, and why I put the little police pigs on top of them. And I know the contexts are obviously very different as far as the origin of these images, but seeing my little Black ass mimicking this gesture of running or fleeing was kind of jarring, even though I know that the original image is really honestly quite celebratory of my family. So even though I'm in my loving dad's arms, I still think about the fact that I and we are still Black. I'm still a nigga. You know, I don't get to escape that reality in the same way that these individuals running from the police don't. And the police in that situation are making sure that they're aware of it. And so moving on to Homesick, this is actually the first image I made in a mediocre-ass nigga before I knew a mediocre-ass nigga was going to be a thing. I was nearing the end of the first semester of grad school, and as we all are, I was overwhelmed and sad, overwhelmed and homesick. I've been focusing on that other body of work, I Understand How You Feel, all semester, and I just wasn't feeling it. You know, it just wasn't doing the thing. I missed being in close proximity to my loved ones who I could rely on and who could keep me smiling when things got rough. I mean, I had my husband and I was making some friends, but most of my homies were back here in Beaumont, Texas, when I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so I didn't have that sort of camaraderie that I wanted. I didn't feel the love that I wanted to feel. And so I made this image a long time ago, and I printed it out. I was looking through my old work. I didn't even consider it work at the time, just taking images of friends when we were at parks, you know? And I took it and I printed it out and I put it on a wall. And I remember just staring at it until I felt like I needed to do something to it, because I don't know, I just had such an emotional response to just sitting in the studio with one of my best friends, even though it was just a picture of him. So I took an acrylic paint pen and started to write on it. And I wrote, "I miss you, nigga," on it, because even though Eric Erod is not Black, Eric, it will always be my nigga. He will always be one of the dearest people in my entire life. And yeah, it was intuitive. So intuitiveness is really important, I think, to the work that I make. I like to make marks, definitely tied to my love, or at least my aspiration and excitement that I get whenever I draw. And I like to do it both physically and digitally. Something about leaving my hand in the work helps me feel a little more, helps it feel personal to me, or helps me leave myself behind in the imagery. In the previous one, I used that acrylic paint pen, but in this one, I didn't have that when this idea came to me. I was also staring at, it wasn't the same because this is so distorted, but I was staring at this old picture I took of my friend Zach during undergrad for a project. We were just going around town making weird images. And so I was staring at this picture of Zach, reminiscing about the day that we took this image, and I just started playing with it. I just started playing with it in order to get my feelings out about the image, or at least my feelings out about the moment that I was thinking about. And so I started messing with it, and I was doing whatever I felt like was right, whether it be inverting the image or writing on top of the image with my mouse and click, you know, my clicker. Oof. Showing age right here. Yeah, it was literally just like clicking on the mouse, but that's why I wrote those words. I do have a drawing tablet for it, but sometimes that just seems too cute and too perfect for me. So I was just doing whatever felt right. So yeah, in my collage and digital manipulation process, I tend to do whatever feels intuitive and what feels right. But there are times when I have a very specific plan. And when I have that plan, I typically immediately go out and make it happen. Go out to gather the materials, go out to take the picture, or whatever it is. Because once I have that idea, or once I make that mark, I tend to be pretty committal. And this is, I think, an example of that in a different context. The N-word. I had this idea in my head the first semester, the first semester, the end of my first semester of grad school. And so I wrote the concept down in my notes app and went to the store, went to the thrift shop. I bought 2 keyboards. I ran to my studio, took these pictures, put them on Photoshop, and immediately started manipulating them. I'm not patient. There are definitely people in this chat who can attest to that. I don't like to wait. And part of that impatience is definitely derived from the fear that if I don't do it in the moment, it'll end up on the back burner and I'll eventually leave it forgotten. And so that's how this piece came, because I was thinking about the N-word, I had an idea, and I had to go out and make that shit. I think overall, the work in A Mediocre-Ass Nigga explores Blackness through a personal, familial lens. So I dig into my family archive and I turn my camera back on my body sometimes. Sometimes I find ways to artistically or photographically recreate nostalgic moments. And I think both of these images are doing that. The first image, so that image that I pixelated is from an old, and I think me and my brothers were taken to Sears by my cousin, something along those lines. Either way, it's one of those like, all right, smile as you're a child, smile, and we're all like, sure, we're doing the thing. And I printed that out because I missed my fucking brothers so much in grad school. I couldn't, my brothers, the amazing thing about my family is that when I don't have them in physical space, I can always have them in digital space. I can always text them and call them. They're always beautiful and reliable and sweet and amazing. But I still miss the fuck out of them. And so I wanted to recreate this moment the most that I could. So I took this picture and pinned it up and put it like on top of a studio background in the same way that we were when we were kids. I just pixelated it because in reality, it's not the real thing. It's not exactly that moment. It's different, it's blurred, it's skewed to my perspective. And so while I am trying to recreate this act of recreating this photographic moment, it's not real, it's not the actual thing. And the other piece, the second piece, I was the worst nigga out there, but I still played. Do not ask me to shoot, to lay up. Do not ask me to alley-oop. Don't ask me to give you a 3-pointer because I'm not going to be good at it. But regardless of that, I still have some of the most amazing memories playing basketball with my brothers and my friends, my brothers and my cousin in this neighborhood of mostly Black kids. I was not the good one, but I definitely had fun playing with my homies. I had fun playing with my friends. There was something about this basketball goal that I saw really close to where I used to live in New Mexico that just took me back there. And I took my Polaroid camera out because I think that felt the most familial to me. That was the medium that I used the most. All these images, a mix of digital manipulation, a mix of film processes and Polaroids, a mix of altering images physically. They all fit within the same body of work because they all feel the same. They all feel familial. They all feel like home, or they all feel like Blackness to me. And so while there are a lot of different techniques, they all feel like a part of me, a part of my identity. And so this is my beautiful family, my mother and some of her amazing siblings, but also it's not, because I've stripped them of their faces and replaced their faces with empty Blackness. And so by doing this, their personhood becomes nothing but Black without the capital B. So this piece is called, Which One of Y'all Say Y'all Don't See Color? Definitely thinking about the fact that if you are choosing not to see color, you are choosing to ignore traumas experienced by Black and Indigenous people of color due to white supremacy, and simultaneously ignoring the positive aspects of racial identity. I mean, I get what you're trying to do, but we ain't asked for you to ignore it. We just asked for you to stop being a jerk about it. That's why people do not like when people say, I don't see color. It doesn't make sense, because if you didn't see color, then why are we having this racial hierarchy in the first place? And so the dates, so July 2nd, 1964 is the date that the Civil Rights Movement was passed, and 1024 was the time that I was born. So I just wanted to put some time there. And so there are a lot of pieces in a mediocre-ass nigga that are visualizations also of some of my most internal thoughts. For the longest time, I had a really difficult time explaining the experiences about that I deal with as far as depression and anxiety to anyone. And honestly, I still do a lot of the time. Making art just so happens to be one of the best ways for me to cope with this sort of stuff. And I honestly think it has saved my life. So this piece comes from in 2019, I cut off all of my hair in the middle of having a really bad anxiety attack. And in that moment, I was having a lot of suicidal ideation, and I wanted everything to change. So I did something drastic so that I could feel and see a sort of change, so that I wouldn't continue to have this thought that maybe the best change is no longer existing. So I cut off all my hair, and I ended up keeping my locks because I just couldn't get myself to throw them away. I put so much time into them. I just wanted to keep them. And so this piece is about that experience, and wishing that I could have turned to a loved one instead of making such a drastic decision. But we did put the hair back in. She's cute now, so it's fine. And so this piece is of me kind of like offering a part of myself, like flowers, like a bouquet of flowers, to one of my loved ones. Actually, this is my friend Hadeb in the background, who is one of my best friends who traveled with me to Kansas City when I dropped off all the work. So shout out to Hadeb. And in the bottom are lyrics from a song called, I had to write it down because it's a long name. You're now tuning into 66.6 FM with DJ Rapture, the hottest hour of the evening, by Suicide Boys. And I love Suicide Boys lyricism because they are real. They're very dark at times, but only because the two people that are the Suicide Boys have to deal, they're actually two white men, but definitely deal with severe mental health issues, and they talk about it in their work. So if you couldn't tell by now, I am emotional as fuck, and I always have been an emotional ass person. And so light-skinned nigga, this piece manifested in the middle of grad school as well. All the stress that was going on. And I had just ended a very, very toxic but meaningful friendship. And my depression felt like it was going to eat me alive. Continuing to miss people and loved ones and think about my family in the moments that I wish I could kind of recreate or relive, not just recreate. I know in the moment when I was making this piece, I wanted to be someone else. In the midst of thinking about the people that I would rather be, I thought of my favorite Dragon Ball Z character, Trunks. And so for those who aren't familiar with the lore of the Dragon Ball, Trunks is a Saiyan. And that's a race of super-powered humanoids who can achieve unparalleled power. And they were unfortunately almost completely wiped out by Frieza. Don't like Frieza. If you like Frieza, I don't like Frieza, I'm sorry. And in Trunks' timeline, he only had his mother Bulma and his best friend and mentor Gohan. And Gohan was the only, like the second last Saiyan that was surviving with Trunks. And they murder Gohan. They murder him, and when Trunks finds his dead body, he goes into an immense fit of like crying and rage. And it's that rage and anger and sadness that pushes him into turn Super Saiyan. And this Super Saiyan ability is a special ability only achievable by Saiyans that amplify their power immensely. And so there's something that's really personal to me about that. There's something very special to me about the Saiyan race as a Black person. You know, this race that was almost completely eradicated by these people who were really just fearful of them. I empathize with the trauma ingrained into Trunks and his Saiyan brethren. I do. And I think I did that as a kid too, before I even knew what, you know, empathy was. You know, I saw myself in that. I saw myself in these characters that were, I hate to say it, but emo. I empathize with those characters that are sad. That's real, you know? So anyone that has to deal with depression knows that there are times in which the emotional baggage becomes so heavy that it completely fucks with your mind and body. I know that my depression leaves me in moments where I don't even want to get out of bed sometimes. I don't want to do nothing sometimes. I would like love to teach. I love to teach and I love to teach in grad school. That was one of the best things. But there were times that I would be like 5 or 10 minutes late at an 11 a.m. teaching class because I felt so my body felt so heavy in bed because of my thoughts and emotions. I just felt like I couldn't do anything or get out. And this is about those moments. I just want to sleep. I don't want to think anymore. Hyperbolic time chamber. I wish that was real. I wish I could just sleep for a couple of years and then it would refresh my body. And so kind of on the flip side of this depression, you know, I do deal with depression, but I also know that I've got people and family that have my back. This piece is about my father. Where can I lay my head? And my dad has always been one of my biggest protectors and supporters, and is now one of my closest friends, parentheses, along with my mama, my homies. And in this piece, I want to let the world know that, and to remind myself of that. And so I know that even at the times when I feel like I can't count on myself, I can at the very least count on my family, my dad and my mom, to hold that love for me when I can't hold it for myself. And so if you look hard, that is me blurred out, like super low opacity, resting on my dad's shoulder. I feel like my dad's kind of holding me up as this sort of like, you know, he's exemplifying me in this image. He makes me feel loved in reality, and I wanted that to be expressed in the work. And so some more recent work, the pandemic started. So I took a little bit of a break from a mediocre-ass nigga to do to do my thesis stuff. Pandemic started, and I just started making work again. And so this piece, Hauling Ass, I came from the very beginning of the pandemic when my brothers and I were running a lot. I was in Albuquerque, they were in Beaumont, or like Texas at the least. And we were like, what the fuck are we gonna do? I guess we'll run. All of us are out of shape, so let's run. And so we were like Nike Fit Club, like comparing how far we were running and pushing each other. And there was great camaraderie in that. At the same time, Ahmaud Arbery was murdered for doing the very same thing, literally running as a Black male-bodied person for exercise down his street in his neighborhood by white supremacists. And this is the piece I made in response to it. Yeah, I'm just gonna play it. I will say that some people have felt uncomfortable watching this. So if you need to turn the volume down in the middle of it, definitely feel free. All right, that's all I'm gonna play of it. So the piece is just of me running until I cannot run anymore and continuing to do that over and over and over again. You know, I was running for this tape. I was running for this video as kind of, you know, thinking about what Ahmaud Arbery must have had to feel. And this reenactment is nowhere near what the terrifying like reality of a Black man running from his life by white supremacists that are trying to kill them. This is a reenactment running from a lyncher. You know, I don't know how to even like continue. Enough said, you know what I'm saying? It's rough. So I just wanted to say RIP to Ahmaud Arbery in 2020. All right, moment of silence. Over. Okay, now, so the pandemic continued, and police brutality didn't stop. Of course, as we all know that. COVID kept us from going outside, but it definitely did not stop us from living the experiences that we lived and responding to the world around us. And these two images I was thinking a lot about, not just the pandemic, not just being cooped up in my house, but also being cooped up in my house as a Black person. Specifically, the image on the right, stay at home, am I doing it right, was at the very beginning of this mask mandate when they were like, wear bandanas as masks, wear bandanas as masks. And I know I was not the only Black person that was like, okay, but if I do that, are you going to think I'm a thug? If I do that, are you going to think I'm fearful? Like, are you going to be fearful of me? And I made an image of me in the mask that I'm supposed to be wearing, right? But I also made it comfortable in my house with no clothes on almost, and wearing a do-rag because at the time I had short hair and I needed to get that. I was trying to get waves at the time. You know, I was dressing as myself, but at the same time, I guess I could potentially be perceived as fearful or being scary to somebody. And the pandemic started making me think of that, especially in response to what I just showed you, especially in response to Ahmaud Arbery, and especially in response to George Floyd. And so on the left, Friends is less about Blackness and more about mental health, thinking about the want and need of human interaction, or at least some sort of interaction with people, with groups of people specifically. Wasn't trying to go out and see nobody because I was definitely not trying to get COVID, but I definitely missed the interaction and the love and the camaraderie that I was getting from the friends I had. And also there was this huge, y'all gonna think this is nasty. There was this huge, there was like a whole month where we would wake up and there were dead moths everywhere outside. Guess what I did? I collected them hoes. And well, honestly, I think moths are like emo butterflies. They're so cute. So I wanted them. I kept them. And I put them all over my body and made them my friends, even though they were all dead. So that definitely me thinking about, if I can't have a bunch of people around me, at the very least, I can make something about it. I can make something of it, especially with these little moths that I find cute, at least. And so this is some of the more recent work. So I made this piece this year. This piece is called Bad Blood. And these are all of my pill bottles from my anxiety and depression medication. You know, definitely thinking about a lot of things. I was thinking about the fact that I am on medication, the futile feeling that I at least feel having to take medication sometimes, questioning if it's working, especially with such a large quantity of things that I take. And also thinking about the Tuskegee incident, where Black people were used by the medical field, not by anything good, right? By just injected with syphilis. You know, I was thinking about the history of the history of the Black American medical experience, and also how that coincides with my experience as a Black person today. Very opposite sides of the thing, but very opposite sides of the fence. But that thing made me want, I put that emoji because that's how I feel whenever I'm on the medication and off the medication sometimes. It gets confusing, and the history of American medicine does not help that. And MVP Brick is the most recent piece that I made in a mediocre-ass nigga that actually isn't done. Oh, let me real quick. So for the first time, I want to also say that these two images were the first time in the entire series that I started making self-portraits where I was directly gazing back at the viewer, like responding to them, responding to me. And I didn't even notice that I was doing that. But at least it was the first time that I was doing that until one of my mentors pointed it out to me. And I think that maybe that comes from like the fact that I could devote more time to my personal life and my healing and my practice. Or maybe it was the confidence in sharing these personal experiences. Over time, I became more confident about it. I think that me kind of intuitively giving back this direct gaze, there's something there that I'm still figuring out. I tend to do it more in the work, and I don't completely know why, but I'm hoping that it's confidence. If it's not, I'm gonna manifest it. It's confidence. And so I do the same thing in this image, not completely looking back into the camera, but I'm showing more of my face. I'm interacting more with the viewer. And I'm also thinking about myself kind of as a deity in this image. The rim that I, shout out to Hadeb again for traveling to, I think, Port Arthur and picking this rim up for me from Facebook Marketplace. But I wanted a basketball goal because I wanted something circular to act as a halo for me. But I also wanted a basketball goal because just like the previous piece that I said, so I was talking about, I was the worst nigga out there, but I still played. The basketball goal has some sort of familiarity to me. So instead of using a gold disc, I put the disc of the basketball goal around me and behind my head. It's kind of funny. MVP, most valuable player, if you aren't familiar with what that is in basketball. And brick is whenever you shoot it and you hit the rim, but you don't make it. So there's like a dichotomy, I think, that I really enjoy there. And the last thing I want to do to this piece, I'm gonna print it out and I'm going to paint those Mario stars in the background gold with gold paint. So watch out. Just don't have a large format printer yet, but I will be there. Grad school has drained me of my of my tools. I don't have those anymore. And a couple shots of the show at the Kansas City Arts Coalition. Again, I'm super, super honored. I feel so honored to have the opportunity to show my work in this space. It is such a beautifully amazing space. And I love how, oh my God, words. I love how you guys curated the show. I literally dropped off my work and I was like, I don't want to do it. Not like that, but like, I would love for you guys to do it. And I just want to come in and respond to what you guys respond to. And so, yeah, I really am just so happy to have my work not only exist in this space, but exist in a space where I don't currently reside, to be able to share my work, especially about the experience as a marginalized person, with people who do not know me. It allows me to share a little bit of my experience with these people. And I think it's really important. Most importantly to me, I want to share this experience with people because I want them to know that they are not alone. I mean, I want work to do that for me. I find work that makes me feel accepted and loved to be some of the most beneficial work to my practice. And it's also not fun to deal with some of the things my work talks about. It ain't fun dealing with depression and anxiety. It's not fun to be a marginalized person and have to deal with white supremacy. It's not fun to be queer in a heteronormative world sometimes, that's just the reality. But at the end of the day, we are not alone. There are people out there that can help and that can relate in some ways, that can help people at least feel felt and feel understood. I know I feel alone a lot of times, but making this work helped pull me out of it. And I want the work to do the same for other people. And Hadeb in the corner for scale. Some of the works are big, yay. But anyway, that is my talk. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to be here again. And yeah, that's all I would like to say. And I'm super happy to answer any questions or hear any responses that anybody has.
Thank you so much, Andre. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing yourself with us and being so vulnerable with us. I really appreciate it. I know we're close to being over time, but we can hang out for a few minutes and do some Q&A. If you have any questions for Andre, feel free to just unmute yourself, or you can drop some questions in the chat box, whichever you feel more comfortable with.
Hi, this is artist Daniel Garcia Roman and Andre. I just want to applaud you. I'm very honored to be in the space with you. As an of color, I'm just very blown away by your vulnerability, your honesty. There were moments when I was able to relate to it. When you said, "Don't ask me to dunk, do a layup." Same thing for me when it comes to soccer. People expecting Latino to be good at soccer, and I get that. And me, I'm about to start my master's, and I've already gone through those annoying as heck papers that I'm just like, oh man, I wish there's other ways to document, express my ideas other than this 10-page paper, and just so much I could relate to that. I was trying to think of a question, and I guess the question would be, how do you, if you do, how do you navigate? Because I'm kind of against trying to educate other people our experiences. It's up to other people to kind of look for these authentic spaces. But how do you balance just expressing your universal truth with kind of educating other folks?
Yo, thank you. Well, first, thank you for those words. I'm super happy that you could relate to some of the things I was saying. Oh, and congratulations on your MFA program, dude. That's awesome. Yes, ma'am. But as far as like navigating this experience, I do agree, especially as people of color, marginalized people, queer people, disabled people, women. It is not the job of the oppressed to always explain to the oppressor, especially if the oppressor has been the one doing the oppressing. I really feel like they should fucking know. There are moments, when, I've been in heated debates with people and been like, here, read the book, read this book, this is something that I think would be helpful. Because there are what I will no longer do is relive traumas to appease somebody else. I will no longer have a panic attack because someone doesn't understand Blackness or like race. I won't do it anymore, but I will be like, I won't have time for it. But I will tell you that there are a lot, at the very least, if you feel like it, Daniel, because you don't even have to do this. I think first and foremost, respect your trauma and respect yourself. If you don't need to talk, don't talk. If you need to walk away, walk away. That is so much more important than having to relive the trauma on behalf of someone who doesn't understand and really isn't trying that hard. If anything, in those moments, I'm like, yo, I read this book and I think it was really helpful. I did this, I watched this documentary, I think it was really helpful. There are times whenever, especially with people that are trying to listen, people that are like asking questions to understand but not be belligerent, I can have those kind of conversations with people as long as they respect the fact that a conversation between two people, if you're talking about the experience of people of color, between a white person and a person of color, the person of color is going to have a more difficult time talking about it because of their experience. That is just the facts. So if that person doesn't respect that, the fact that explanation like that is difficult for the people that have to live these traumas, then baby, pass them a book. Be like, you know what? Here's a sticky note, boo. You do you and I'm gonna do me.
Yeah, I really appreciate those words. I take them to heart, and yeah, I just appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you. Yeah, and reach out if you ever need anything like that. You are
For sure.
comrades, you know, so we are in this together, especially as marginalized people.
Ruben Castillo says, I love what you said about urgency to produce. I've been trying to wrestle with this idea of what also Lilith calls urgent craft, which resonates so much with me.
Urgent craft. I've never heard of that. I'm going to have to look that up.
And Brittany Noriega says, I really appreciate such an honest reflection of your life and experiences. Beautiful work.
Thanks, y'all. I am surprised I haven't cried yet. I'm not going to do it. Last time I said I didn't. Last time I said I wasn't going to do it, I did it. So we'll see. But no, I really appreciate that. I thank you for taking the time to like listen to me and respect what I respect and what I have to say. You know, there's so many things in the art world, and specifically like by artists of color, by people from marginalized experience, that I'm loving that are breaking down boundaries. I'm loving that I'm seeing way more than like, you know, pretty white women in the studio shot by an old white man. You know, I'm tired of that. I am exhausted of that. I'm so happy to see gay men like with butthole statues. I'm so happy to see like Black people using the N-word over and over. Yes, say nigga, and absolutely use Black vernacular, and say gang in your titles too. Yep, like I'm loving to see the experience that comes directly from, you know, from us, from marginalized peoples. Thank you. I'm gonna copy these. Oh wait, I'm gonna just save the chat. Paul One's queer archive work. Okay, thank you.
I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, what's up? Absolutely.
So when I look at your work, and you talk about mental health, sometimes I think about trauma or epigenetics and the way that's passed down specifically for Black people, and how that was passed down via slavery, Jim Crow, etc. And you talk about the reality of mental health, and I feel like many people do not talk about the sort of impact that slavery, police brutality has had on Black people as a collective, specifically when it comes to mental health. Do you think about this at all with your work? If so, how does that manifest?
Definitely, I do, and I love the question. During my talk, I said that Black existence is an act of resistance. Black and Indigenous people of color in general walking down the street is an act of resistance. And let me tell you why. Because these people that have to walk down the street, even subconsciously, that are thinking, I hope that person doesn't judge me because of my skin color. Or like, I hope this outfit doesn't make me look scary to someone. Or I hope because I have a beard and I'm a male body, that doesn't intimidate this person that's walking across the street. Oh, I hope that person didn't cross the street because they were scared of me. You know, that is ingrained into identity. Those thoughts shouldn't have to happen, but they fucking do. And they happen because of the way that Black people and people of color have been treated throughout our history. It's not just, you know, like, it's not coincidence. It's real, it's historic, and it's traumatic. Whenever we are kids, whenever we're children, and we're learning about slavery, and when, you know, it's more difficult for the little Black kids in those classrooms to realize, holy shit, like, this could have been me if it was some odd years ago. Or like watching the news and seeing a person of color get attacked or shot and killed, you know? The idea that could have been me is different than, oh man, that's rough. You know, like, white people don't have to think that. You don't have to. I mean, like, that doesn't say that white people aren't victims of police brutality, but white people are not victims of racial police brutality. There's a difference there. It's real and it's ingrained into us. You know, I would love to eradicate that. I would love to eradicate that. But Black trauma, the history of that is so real. And it definitely comes through in my work. I mean, I think about, I don't know if it's a specific piece or like kind of specific instances. Maybe some of the images that are more direct about Blackness, like Weapon, for example. But that's ingrained into my existence and my identity, not because of me and not because of you, but it's because of white supremacy, right? And so that's part of the work. But yeah, I definitely think about that. I definitely think about the history that is trauma and trying to move past that. It's hard. Oh God, it's so hard. Sometimes it's harder than others to accept that trauma. There has been times in my work where I had to stop and step away from the work. Like there's my other body of work, Black Snafu, where I was thinking about how I could coincide photographs that were more genuinely Black, made by a Black person about Blackness, with these drawings of minstrels and racist characters. When I was doing all that research for that body of work, I had to step away for a bit. There's times that I'm like, okay, this week is up because I'm done looking at minstrels. I'm done looking at Black trauma. You know, even though the work is necessary, and the work I feel is really important, I have to respect that my emotions and my body has a reaction to seeing some of these things. And I think first and foremost, while I think the work is important, I gotta respect, and we have to respect, that it is difficult for us. It is difficult for people of color to relive these things. It's difficult for queer people to have to like accentuate their oppression. You know, that's just the reality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
If anything, I got one more comment. It's related to whenever you mentioned, Andre, of sometimes you just gotta, stop yourself in explaining your trauma, and gotta hold someone in check and want to direct them towards a sort of book or video. I think that's the kind of beauty of art that comes from true experiences, where you could truly say, here, let me point you to my art, and then see if you could, feel that emotion, feel that raw emotion, and empathize, hopefully, with that. So
definitely,
and vice versa. Like I could direct people to your exhibition now at the Kansas City Artists Coalition. So it's a very beautiful thing.
Definitely. Yo, thank you. Yeah, I completely agree. That's one of I think the most fun isn't the word. I don't know if successful is either. But I guess it's good about the fact that we are creators, whether it be visual art, music, or whatever it is, that we can make things for ourselves about this experience. We can make things to deal and to cope and to inform. And then whenever someone's like, but, you can be like, well, but I've already done this work. You can look over here, baby. You know what I'm saying? I completely agree with that. I completely agree. Yeah, definitely. Random, but I read this book. I'm almost done with this book. That was also like, for example, like this, I read this book that was not for me. What is it called? White Fragility. If anyone's heard of it, right? Like it's written by D'Angelo or something.
Robin DiAngelo?
Yes, written by a white woman, and she's talking to white people about white privilege and race, and that reality. I read that book for two reasons. One, because I was like, I want to know what they say in this book. I just want to know what they say. I want to know if this feels right, and it did feel really right. And two, because there are some people that ain't gonna listen to it unless it comes from someone like them. There are people you will see and you will meet, like specifically straight, white, male-bodied, cisgendered people that are like, I don't get it, and I don't want to get it. And you'll have to jump through the hoops. And at least with this book, you can be like, okay, well, obviously you're not listening to nobody else, but here's a white person. They've done the work. Hopefully they can do enough work for you. So sometimes it's just like accepting the fact that there are people that just don't want to listen. At least listen until they hear it in the way that they want to hear. And I have met people. I'm just gonna say it. I've met people who are like, I don't get Black Lives Matter. I don't care to get it either. But another like, oh, but like, stop Asian hate. I get that. Those are both really fucking important. Why are you understanding one and not the other, right? Like, there are people who just want to hear it in a specific way, or hear it by specific people. And those people are, I think, the people that most you need to protect yourself from, because whenever you're talking to those people, it gets hard. It gets really hard for you specifically, the person trying to explain the experience.
Sandra Klein says, thank you so much. I loved your talk. I recently saw one of your wheat painted images in Denver and was thrilled.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that was a image that Mark Sink had put up for the month of photography Denver. I think it was like the one of Mickey Mouse above my dreads. I'm so glad that I wish I could go up and see it. I actually had planned to go up to Denver and see it, and then I got really sick in May and I couldn't go see it. But I'm glad someone could see it. That means so much to me. Thank you.
I have a question.
What's up?
Well, first of all, you're awesome, and thank you. It's super nice to listen to an artist uninterrupted. It's so rare, I think.
Thank you.
Whether it's actual art or leisure, what's next?
You know, it's art. Actually, I think I've taken a lot of art and, art and leisure, because I've been very stressed out recently. I just recently moved back to Beaumont, and it's been 3 months, but I'm still getting my footing. But I finally found a job. Finally, I'm becoming more financially stable, and my mental health is getting a little bit better. Finally, getting over some of the personal hurdles I've been going through recently, and seeing the art in Kansas City. Whoo, man. Yeah, it was the Nelson Atkins Museum. Shout out to yes. And Marissa, because they put me in the right direction. I got to see so much cool fucking work that now I just want to make more work. And it's gonna be stuff from a mediocre-ass nigga, for a mediocre-ass nigga. The body of work isn't going to be over until I feel like it's over. At least until I feel like I'm done talking about mental health, or at least using it to make myself feel good. At the very least, making myself feel good. So there's that. I also am going to be preparing for some shows I have next year. I have a show in Denver, actually, at a place called Leon Gallery, for Black Snafu, which is my thesis work. And so I'll be making work for that. So that'll be fun. I'm excited to make work. I'm excited to learn how to cook, because we've been, don't ask me to cook for you, honey, but soon you can ask me. And Drew, it's been about 3 weeks since I played Smash Brothers, and I need to play some fucking Smash Brothers. If you can't tell, my poster is in the back. Yeah, I need to play that. Hit me up whenever you get that game, or if wait, what?
It's $60.
I'll split it with you. Dang.
Do not spend your money on me.
Oh my God. We'll figure that out.
I'm just gonna we're 20 minutes over time.
Sorry.
No, you were wonderful. This has been awesome, but I want to be conscious of everyone's time as well. I'm just gonna do a final call for questions. If you have any questions, any other questions for Andre, feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. And yeah, thank you so much, Andre, for connecting and sharing and being so vulnerable with us. It's been really special. And thank you everyone for attending and giving your input and your comments and questions as well.
Yes, thank you so much to everyone. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Jessica. Shout out to Marissa too. Yeah, thank you everyone for also like making space for this, making space for this sort of camaraderie, this community, and for me to be myself. I'm so appreciative of it, and I love you guys. So I thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Andre.
Well, if you guys haven't seen it, Andre's show, please come into KCAC. It's up till August 27th. Come see Andre's show. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.